In this episode of Fortify Live, we're going to be uncovering the keys to scaling businesses without losing what makes it great. From launching his own franchise locations to leading a diverse portfolio of over 800 units, yes, 800 units, our guest today is going to share his journey in a masterclass for growth, for people, and culture. So get ready to discover counterintuitive strategies that helped Scott Zide scale multiple brands and still doing that today while strengthening and not sacrificing their unique culture.
Welcome to Fortify Live with your host, Ford Saeks.
Right. Hey everyone, Ford Saeks back with another episode of Fortify Live. We're live right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and a few other places. And we're here to help you accelerate your business growth. Now, I'm really excited for this next guest. Scott Zide is with us today. Scott, welcome to Fortify Live.
Thanks, Ford. Great to be here.
Well, take us back to the beginning, Scott. How did your franchise journey begin? And again, for those listeners, even if it's an entrepreneur and you're not a franchise, it's still relevant. So take us back to where to begin and what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so it began right out of school. So I was 23 years old, just graduated from college, had this dream to own my own business and learned that franchising might be the right route to take. So a friend of mine who became a partner of mine, we opened 2 sub shops in St. Louis, Missouri, and they were franchised. So that was the start of my career in franchising. I spent my whole career in franchising. Really important that I was a franchisee first. So learned a lot about the franchisee-franchisor relationship. We built up our 2 stores. We eventually sold those. I became a franchisee again for the second time with my wife. We licensed one of our brands we have here today, Outdoor Lighting Perspectives. We were the 4th franchisee of that brand. So was a franchisee first, then crossed the fence about 24 years ago now when the founder of the lighting franchise asked me to join the franchisor. And I quickly realized in the consultant role that I had that I really enjoyed the coaching, the mentoring, the support side of things. And I knew that that was the calling for me. And lucky for me, that brand grew. I was able to lead that brand. It was the first time I was able to be a brand president and drive the growth of a brand. And ultimately, throughout this whole journey, co-founded Mosquito Squad in the outdoor pest control space, and then formed a couple multi-branded franchisor platforms that have led us to where we are today here at Empower Brands.
Wow, it's an impressive journey. I mean, I've been in franchising now for 34 years, on and off with different brands, and as a franchisee, franchisor, franchise consultant, and obviously as a keynote speaker in the franchise space. And what I like about what you've done is your family of brands you have now. And for those listeners, if you're listening to the audio podcast, we're talking to Scott Zide, Zide. He's the CEO of Empower Brands, and you can check them out online at empowerfranchising.com. So just share a little bit about some of the brands. You got multiple brands. I think you have 10 now. Don't you have 10 brands in your family?
We do have 10 now. And it's interesting because they're all at different stages of their life cycle. We have some very young brands that we launched ourselves. We refer to those as incubation brands. We have Canopy Lawn Care in the lawn care space, Wallaby Windows in the window and door space, and Bumble Roofing in the roofing space. So those brands just launched over the last year and a half. Early growth there. Each brand has 10 franchisees. Plus, and our goal there is really focused on the franchisees and making sure that this first group of 10, 15, 20 franchisees, they have success. They ramp the way we all believe they can. So there's a hyper focus on the support there for those new franchisees. We have what we refer to as high growth brands that have been franchising for 3 to 10 years now. Superior Fence and Rail, Conservate Irrigation, Koala Insulation. They're growing at 15, 20, 25% plus growth per year. We're adding many new franchisees every year with those brands. And then I would say we'll refer to our most tenured brands as steady growth brands. They grow at 5 to 10% per year. Jan Pro in the commercial cleaning space being the largest brand that we have. Outdoor lighting, Perspectives, Architect Outdoor Living, and First Team, which is a restoration brand. So those are the 10 brands we have right now here at Empower Brands.
And so along the way, I mean, you've got over 800 locations, something like that?
Yes, 700 franchisees serving, I believe it's over 1,200 locations.
Wow. That's fantastic. So I'm just curious, I ask all the CEOs this question. What's the most important lesson that you've learned about scaling, or what is something that you wish you would have known when you started that you know now?
Yeah, that's a great question that's asked a lot. I would say put the support in place before the growth comes. And what I mean by that is some of our younger brands and the brands that have aggressively grown. Sometimes I wish we would have put more of the franchise business coaches, more of the marketing team, more of the IT team in place before all that growth came. Sometimes you play catch up with that. And that's probably the one thing as I look back. And maybe one more is just the importance of right person, right seat. And we can all say that we learned that throughout our career, that people is what drives an organization. It's what drives growth. And you have to ensure you have the right folks in the right seats to get the job done.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I mean, I've had 17 companies of my own. The biggest one was a sporting goods company. I grew up to $50 million in sales, not profit. It's a big difference, as we all know, and had 140 employees. And I really had to learn a lot about the different strengths. And what I found is when I went back and I really took care of my people, and I had a great culture, good leadership, effective management, and then I'd work on the team. And I had to really start from the top down with a clear culture. And I know those words get thrown around a lot. I mean, as a keynote speaker, whenever I go in and I interview, I say, what are the top 3 challenges facing your organization? They always tell me the same thing. It's people, whether it's staffing, because again, it's hard to, as a franchisee or as a business owner, it's hard to find good people, hard to find them, train them, engage them, retain them. And then the other one is, how do I get more business? Because in my work, the franchisor just wants their franchisees to follow the system, right? You've got the system, right. You invested in the system. Why aren't you following the system? And then the franchisor, when I do the interviews for the franchisees, the Franchise Advisory Council or the Marketing Council, I ask them what their top challenges are. Like, we want corporate to do more to drive business. And so what's interesting is I get put in the middle to say, look, take personal accountability for your own success. There's plenty of opportunity. Focus on what you can control, which is your attitude, your actions, and your allocation of time, and go out and build your centers of influence in the community, because that's, franchising gives you a system, but you still have to work it. And I know that you've grown a lot through your people first culture. So I think that's really cool. How would you explain that people first culture in more depth?
Yeah, I think it gets to the core of what franchising is. We're in the relationship business. So making sure that empathy, generosity, recognition, all those things are at the forefront of what we do every day here, not just at Empower Brands and the corporate team, but with our franchisees as well. So it's about the atmosphere we've built here, the environment we've built here. When a new team member starts, showing them the career path that they can have here and showing them what they can do over a 2, 5, 7 year period of time here. I think our focus on career development, professional development, leadership skills, all the things we do here at Empower Brands, I think is what shows that people first is truly who we are. And that phrase gets thrown out a lot. But I think we live it. I think our values really speak to that. And if you live that and your behavior mimics that, then it's true, it's authentic, it's real, it's genuine, all those things. And that's why people don't leave here. Once they join the team, they stay and they advance. And career advancement is what everyone is looking for. And we are focused on that. We're focused on developing our team. We have individuals all the time that are moving from one brand to the next brand because they want to take a step up. So we promote from within. We always look there first. So it's truly, I believe, if you're focused on the advancement of your team and the development of your team and making sure the atmosphere and the environment that they work in each and every day is it's fun, it's engaging, it's collaborative, you're going to win then.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know when I've seen success, it's when I really live those values. I mean, when I first started as an entrepreneur, I was so focused on my strength, which was in marketing and sales. And then I found out that people in business are strong in one of three areas: marketing and sales, delivering the product or delivering great customer experiences, or leadership and operations. So there's those three modalities. And, you want to be strong in all three, but you sometimes have to hire your weaknesses. And I found that when my sporting goods company really scaled is when I really brought in a president of the company, because I was the idea guy. I was the guy to go out and create the ideas and invent it and patent it and all that. And then when I had an operations manager and operations director, and then I really learned what accountability was, because it's interesting, Scott, because I used to think I had a plan, right? I'd say, well, I've got a plan for this and a plan for this. And my operations director sat down and said, no, you have an idea. That's not a plan.
Right.
So in my mind, I thought I had a whole plan laid out. And, then I had to learn things about scheduling and accountability and racy, like who's responsible, who's accountable, who needs to be communicated to, and who needs to be informed. I learned all these other strategies. And I think that's really a great point for our listeners is, look, identify where your strengths are, play to your strengths, hire your weaknesses, but you do have to, if you're in business, you have to have those modalities to make sure you're bringing in the right people, because one bad apple can ruin the whole bunch, right? It's easier to run with 1,000 people in one direction than one person tied behind your ankle. And unfortunately, when I come in as an advisor sometimes, and I do the 360s with their leadership team, I'm like, look, you've got a toxic culture. It's not just in franchising; it happens in banking, financial services, and pharmaceuticals. But I just know that culture really is a huge part of any business. How do you make sure that your brands share the right values and mindset? I mean, do you do meetings? Do you have annual conferences where you bring everybody together? How do you echo that through the different brands, since you've got incubator brands all the way up to legacy brands?
Multiple ways. We do have a annual convention. All brands, all franchisees come together at one time. It's coming up here in about a month. We'll have about 1,400 attendees at that event. So that's one way where we are reminding the franchisees of the mission, the purpose, the values, collectively who we are and who we serve. We also do mid-year regional events within each brand. So the brand team and the franchisees are getting together again in per person. So we're doing that at least twice a year. And then we have a myriad numbers of calls and webinars and things we do just like everybody else does. But what it does, if the communication track is it's consistent, it's frequent enough, we are reminding our franchisees and their teams all the time the mission, the purpose, who we are, what we stand for. And it resonates across all brands, all franchisees, and their teams as well. And ultimately to the end customer, which is who we serve.
Yeah, I've used an acronym I learned years ago, OQP, only quality people. And, I like to hire for attitude and train for skills. I've had people sometimes that were extremely well educated and had high skills, but they were toxic. And so, you try to coach them up to standard, but sometimes, if that dog doesn't hunt, you got to free them up for new opportunities. It's like, hey, sorry, we're freeing this up to new opportunities. So I'm just curious, in your growth of or if you look at the landscape now in 2025, what do you see as some of the top challenges? You're in a home services brand. A lot of your brands are in home services, and commercial and residential, of course. But what do you see as some of the challenges on the horizon, and how are you trying to prepare for them?
Yeah, and I think you'll appreciate this. I think the complexity of the marketing landscape has evolved, especially on the digital side. So what worked 18 months ago doesn't work now. Cost per lead might be twice as much. Things have evolved a lot. So I think on the marketing lead gen side, there's just complexity, and most of our franchisees, they don't have a marketing background. They're looking to us for the guidance, the roadmap, the support there. So we are investing more heavily in the marketing team right now. We just brought on a new CMO. She is going to be investing in her team and that team. So I think for us, it's bringing a more progressive, innovative approach to marketing, which has obviously changed a lot. So I think that's one challenge that we all face right now. I would say the changing customer is something we're all trying to navigate, where a customer today wants speed to response, speed to proposal, speed to service. And how does technology play into that? I think is going to be really important. I think that's whoever invests in that and focuses on that and has a priority toward that, they're going to have a better chance to differentiate themselves, have a competitive advantage, and ultimately win. So I think there's a changing customer and how they find information, how they absorb information, and where they find it is changing. So my belief is we have to innovate and evolve with that as well. And then for us and some of the brands that we have, of course, the labor force.
Yeah.
And not having the constraint there that can put a governor on growth.
Right.
So there are a lot of strategies, tactics, things we're trying to do to attract labor for our franchisees or with them. But as I tell our team here and our franchisees, you have to be easy to work for these days. The labor force has changed. What they want out of work and what they expect has evolved. And you have to modify your approach and how you lead and how you manage to that. And I think that's something that our franchisees are figuring out and they're working on, because labor can be a constraint. So we're focusing in on that.
Yeah, well, certainly being top of mind. I mean, so really the problems are digital has changed, buyer behaviors are changed, and staffing. And, in my work with brands, both big and small around the globe, inside and outside franchising, I found that success really comes down to one of three things, right? First, it's the mindset. If they don't have the mindset dialed in, all the strategies and tactics and systems won't help. So get the mindset dialed in. And then, of course, the strategies. They have their systems, but are they really following them? A lot of them go through their training during the onboarding phase, but they're not really consistently going back and looking at the resources that your brands give to the franchisees on how to follow it. And then, of course, it comes down to those tactics. How do they stay top of mind, especially in the digital world? So are they findable online? Do they have good reviews? Do they have good reviews on Google Review and other review sites, depending on the model? Have they captured testimonials? Are they capturing video, and are they using it to build the local market? Because, I mean, a lot of the times franchise brands control the narrative on the national side, which they should, right? Yeah. But they also have to allow the franchisee to be posting on relevant things in their community. And so one of the things I do when I do a keynote on like a business growth acceleration or something, I always tell them, look for the happiness moment. And as soon as you've done a job for somebody and they're exhibiting any thank you or success, that's the point where you say, hey, would you mind leaving a Google review? Or I do a two-step with them, Scott. I tell them to take their phone out and say, hey, Scott, can you share that again? I want to share this with my team. So I ask them to create a video just to share it with the team because it diffuses the prospect or the customer. And then once they've given the review, if it's a good review, you say, wow, that was really good. Do you mind if I share it? So it's a 2-step process to referrals. And then that helps with price resistance for the buyers because, buyers are doing their research before they buy, and you're in services business. So it's a needs-based business. So I have a lake here right behind my office here. And I've used mosquito services before, and one service literally drove by. I've got cameras all over my house. Literally drove by with a wand out the window, and I'm like, "Well, it wasn't your brand." Just for full disclosure,
Good.
It was not your brand. But I mean, but it's hard to find. When I contacted that franchise, he's like, "I'm really sorry. It's been hard to get new people because and it brings into the last part. So are you findable? What kind of digital footprint do you have? Have you mystery shop yourself? I mean, I did a presentation for community bankers, right? And community bankers, Scott, they always say, well, the reason people work with a community bank versus a big bank is customer experience, right? It's all about the customer experience. Right. So I grabbed the CEO from the audience and I put him up stage and I said, can we do a test? And it was a 3-hour workshop. And he said, sure. So I said, what's your bank's phone number? And I literally called the bank with my microphone and it was a terrible experience. Of course, everybody was laughing at this poor guy. And I said, well, wouldn't you rather know now? And then, of course, he became a great friend of mine. We've gone on trips together and we really close. But, they didn't know what they didn't know. So they thought, oh, we're all about people first. We're all about customer experience. And what I would recommend for any franchisee listening is mystery shop your own franchise brand. Look and see what shows up. Look at the Google reviews. And again, take personal accountability. The system gives you the system, but there are successes in every system. And I love it when a brand shares their successes on their weekly calls or their monthly calls because it helps the franchisee see what's possible and it changes the narrative, right? And so I always tell them, focus on what you can control, which is your attitude, right? That's the mindset piece, your allocation of time, and then what actions are you actually taking? And usually that's what does the turnaround. At first, I'm able to come in as a third-party endorsement for brands. So it's interesting when they're interviewing me to speak, they'll say, well, what are you going to speak about? I said, well, there's 2 things. I'm a third-party endorsement to tell them the things that you've already told them, but they hear it differently from someone else. And right. I use my wife as an example. My wife's in health and fitness. And so I'll come home after reading something or listening to something on TikTok or something, and I'll say, hey, honey, I just learned about this new thing. And she gives me this look, Scott, like, are you kidding me right now? I've been telling you that for 5 years. So, it's not what you know, it's how well you execute. I think a lot of people know what to do, but they don't know how to execute. Would you agree?
No doubt. And I've spent my entire career in franchising. And as we all know, there's the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third. And what separates all of them, I've when new franchisees come and train, I spend some time with them and I say I could line up 9 for franchisees of one brand. 3 are in the top, 3 are in the middle, 3 are in the bottom third. You could spend 3 minutes with each one and just have a quick conversation. You would pick out the top 3 in the top third. And the reason you would is because their enthusiasm, their mindset, the passion for what they have, it'll just shine through, versus the bottom third, you won't see that. And I think the franchisees that get up in the morning, their feet hit the ground, they look themselves in the mirror and like, what am I going to do today to influence my business? I'm the owner of this business. It's on me. Those are the ones that win. Those are the ones that we see ramp faster. Those are the ones that break the records. And we talk about that because it is accountability. It's self-accountability. We can give the roadmap, plans, the experiences, all the past history, but at the end of the day, the franchisee is going to make it happen. And it's why the franchise development, the process is so important, because they're vetting us and vetting the brand to make sure it's the right fit for them, but we're doing the same thing. We're making sure they're the right fit for us. And as you do this more and more, you start to learn who might or might not be the right fit.
Yeah, it's so true. I know that, because again, I do a lot of work with franchise development as well as, their corporate teams and their onboarding training and all that. And, when I first start, there'll be somebody who'll say, well, this person's really good. They've got a lot of business experience. I know they're going to be a rock star. And I'm always just a little bit hesitant because, a new broom sweeps clean, right? I mean, the first 30 days, everybody's a rock star. But it's not what you do now. It's what do you do in 6 months when labor gets hard or the market changes, or like I had a franchise brand call. They have their outdoor painting company, and he's like really struggling. He's like, look, I've got 15 inches of snow. I've got this high labor cost. My cash flow is tight. What am I going to do? And I said, well, you do interior work too. And he goes, yeah, but we don't have any leads right now. I said, go create a resurrection campaign and reach back to all those customers that didn't buy from you, and reach back to all the current customers that did do projects and tell them, use the thing about 15 inches of snow equals 15% off. We're going to help you. And we created this campaign, and they launched it. And the guy's name's Cameron, who called me. He said, I just want you to know, I went back to a job that was really $3,000 and it just turned into $60,000. He said, you're brilliant. I'm like, okay, I appreciate that, but it's the fundamentals, and marketing and sales is just giving people enough information that they can make good decisions. It's not hype or tricking or manipulation. It's communication. And unfortunately, too many people in business, not just franchising, they don't spend enough time toe-to-toe, eye-to-eye, face-to-face communicating to their market and being top of mind. So with a home services brand, you want to be visible, even though you may be doing work or doing things that you don't think are turning into business. It's creating that effect. And so how do you create the referrals? Are you emailing? Like the buyer behavior has definitely changed. And the ones that make it are the ones that stay top of mind, communicate value, say thank you, send thank you cards, send emails, depending on the compliance of a brand. I mean, I know not everybody has control, but that's what I've seen. Have you seen similar things?
Yeah. I mean, raving fans is what we're trying to, the customer has to become a raving fan of yours, and it starts when we believe the customer journey starts, of course, when the lead comes in. That first touch point, the first call, the first thing you do, it starts, and everything you do along the journey is what's building and building and building. So at the end of the project or at the end of the process, they truly are going to be a raving fan. And they're going to refer folks. They're going to give you the reviews. I mean, that's how franchisees, the local community, and building your brand in the local community. That's what this is really about. And we're trying to work on with our franchisees of them building their own brand in the local community. Build your personal brand there. People want personal connections. And it's great to be part of the brand and part of the franchise, differentiation. All those things are great. But if you want to take this thing to the next level, build your personal brand to become known in the community that you serve. And the power of that is incredibly strong.
Yeah, at the end of the day, people do business with the people they know, like, and trust. I mean, I work in the speaking world, so I'm in the Hall of Fame with keynote speakers, which doesn't mean anything other than I've generated a lot of accolades in my brands. And what I've found is, everybody's always excited. I have authors come to me and they write their book and they think it's going to be the next bestseller. And to get in the speaking business, it's easy. You just say, I'm a speaker, right? I mean, there's no criteria other than that, but it's easy to get into, but harder to stay in. And what I found that successful people are the ones that are top of mind, that communicate. And that's how I've been able to grow. I mean, I've had my digital marketing agency, so I run a full service agency, because when I speak about digital marketing or AI, people come to me and they're like, hey, can you just do it? So I have a whole team that actually does facilitated done for you services, but my brand is built through this. So getting you on the podcast, talking about franchising, I'm now reaching new people, you're reaching new people. And it's taking 30, 40 minutes of your time to do, but it's also evergreen. So the episode stays up there. it helps. And so imagine someone who's Googling thinking, hey, well, who's Scott? I want to see about joining one of those franchise brands. Now they listen to you. They listen to your sincerity and your authenticity, talking about how you take care of their people. And that helps that buying decision versus a brand. And I've worked with some brands where I've decided not to work with when they ask me to come on board as a strategic advisor, because the first thing they tell me is, hey, look, we're trying to bring this up to 50 units to 100 units, then we're going to flip it. And I just said, well, I mean, and you know this, you've been in this long enough to know. And I have to politely resign. I mean, it's a small world. I don't want to say, who the brand was, but it's like, I know they're not going to take care of their franchisees. They're not really, they're only concerned about, showing a profit, generating the revenue, looking at the average transaction, and then flipping it to a private equity group. And it's just like, it's just icky to me, because it's like, you could get there by taking care of your people too, right? I mean, you don't have to not do it, but they don't know what they don't know. And so, the life will teach them the lesson. If they don't learn the lesson, the market will teach them, because they'll see it in their franchisees. I know same thing happened when I spoke for a big sub company, not Mr. Good Sense. It was a different one. Not to be named, like a transportation in New York. But I went and spoke at their annual conference, and it was really a really sad thing, because they had just made a mandate. This is years ago, where they had to have $5 footlongs, and the average franchisee lost $1.25 on each one, and they had to buy from secured vendors, and there was all this news about kickbacks from the vendor. It was just bad, right? This is just all hypothetical for the listeners out here, but I was brought in to help inspire them for growth, and they were just upset. They were downright pissed off. Pardon my language. It's my show. I can say that. But I was just like, I still got through to the ones that needed to get through to. But again, it's not a magic bullet. And I think that, it really goes back to something I'm known for, is it's not what you know, it's how well you execute. And the same thing for me. When business is slow for me, I ask myself, what am I doing? What do I need to do better? And when I see someone else speaking or training, or see something on TikTok or Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn that one of my buddies is doing, I remember what Les Brown told me years ago. I used to manage Les Brown, a motivational speaker. He said, they just represent the thoughts and feelings that you have failed to act upon. And it's worked in the same with the franchise world. When a franchisee complains that they're not the top producer, look, that person just did the things that you didn't want to do. It's not that they have some special secret sauce or that their market was better. And I just got done doing a keynote for Eggs Up Grill. They're in the South United States, and big brand in the Southern United States and Eastern. And the CEO, Ricky, shared a story, and this is public, it's not a private thing, but he shared the story of a Memphis store that they turned around. And so they had a panel, and they interviewed him, like, what turned it around? And he just got in and said, look, I started with my people, and I said, look, we're going to turn this around. And the average sales was triple what the other, in a year and a half. Right. He was the top producer, and he was triple what all, and he had a terrible market at the time. There was increased competition. There were staffing issues and, supply chain issues. There was all these things, but he took it upon himself to do what he could control. So that's where I come from. But if you had one bit of knowledge or wisdom that you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up, what would you like to leave our listeners with today?
Yeah, I think franchising, again, I've spent my entire career in franchising, very thankful for that. But franchising success is about, in my opinion, is about one thing: unit level economics. And if you're guided by that, the franchisee's success and their ability to reach the goals they have in their life, that's what this is all about. And that's who we are. So any franchising executives out there, or franchisors, or people who are thinking about franchising the business they have, if you stay laser focused on unit level economics, that's at the tip of the spear. And if you can make that work, everything else just comes along with it. Happy franchisees doing well. You'll have then the resources to put the support team in place. I mean, it all comes together and all works. But without that, it doesn't work. So that's if there's one thing I could leave the our audience most eligible.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right, so thanks for tuning in to Fortify Live, where we're all about accelerating your business growth. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep fortifying your success.
Thank you for tuning in to Fortify Live. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the Business Growth Show podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. We air weekly at 11 a.m. Central Time. So until next week, keep pushing the boundaries and never stop growing.